Okay, let's jump right in. Today we're doing a deep dive into one specific chapter, Ezekiel 33.
Right. A really pivotal chapter.
Yeah, and our goal is basically to unpack what's going on here. The warnings, the core ideas about responsibility, justice.
And accountability. Huge themes in this one. Plus, what it says about people facing utter disaster.
Definitely. It kicks off with this incredibly vivid metaphor, doesn't
Oh,
it?
absolutely. The Watchman. It grabs you immediately.
So paint the picture for us. What's the setup?
Well, imagine a land, and there's a threat coming. The text calls it the sword. So the people, they pick someone, one of their own, to be a lookout, a watchman.
Simple enough. See danger, warn people.
That's the job description.
Yeah.
If he sees that sword coming, he has to blow the trumpet. He has to warn everybody. It's like his fundamental duty.
But it's the consequences that really stand out. It's not just, oh, good job or bad job.
No, not at all. It's literally life and death. The text lays it out very clearly. If the watchman does his job, sees the danger, blows the horn loud and clear, and someone hears it, understands the warning, but just, ignores it, doesn't take cover,
Yeah.
and the sword comes and gets them. Well, the text says their blood is on their own head. They were warned. They chose poorly.
Right. They had their chance. Makes sense. But what if the watchman messes up?
Ah, that's where the weight really falls. If he sees the danger coming, the sword approaching, but he doesn't blow the trumpet, he stays silent. And people die because they weren't warned. Now, the text is interesting here. It says those people still die for their own sin. Like, the reason the judgment is coming is their behavior. But their blood is required at the watchman's hand. He's held responsible for their deaths because he failed in his duty. He knew, and he didn't warn.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's intense. So it's not just a story, right?
Yeah.
This watchman idea connects directly to Ezekiel.
Exactly. That's the crucial turn. God speaks right to Ezekiel, calls him son of man, and says, flat out, I have made you a watchman for the house of Israel.
So all that responsibility, that life or death stuff we just talked about,
Yep.
it lands squarely on Ezekiel, his specific task. Hear God's word, and then go warn the wicked. Tell them what God says.
And the stakes for Ezekiel himself are just as high as for that hypothetical watchman.
Absolutely identical. If he warns the wicked person, says, hey, turn from this path, and they refuse, they don't listen, they die in their sin.
Yeah.
But Ezekiel, he saved himself. He did his job. His hands are clean.
Okay.
But if he doesn't warn them, if he keeps quiet, then the wicked person still dies for their sin, but God holds Ezekiel accountable for their blood.
So his own fate is tied to his faithfulness in delivering the message. Not necessarily.
Not necessarily whether they listen or not. His job is the warning. It's a profound personal accountability.
Yeah.
Heavy stuff.
No kidding. Okay, so after setting up this immense weight on the messenger, the focus shifts a bit, right?
Yeah.
To the people.
Yeah, you get to hear from their perspective. And it's pretty bleak. They're basically saying, look, our sins, our offenses, they're crushing us. We're wasting away. How can we possibly live?
Sounds like complete despair. Like they feel trapped by their past. Exactly. They see this mountain of past actions and just think, that's it. Game over. There's no way out. Fatalism, almost.
So how does God respond to that? You might expect, I don't know, agreement or just judgment.
But that's not what happens. It's actually one of the most revealing moments. God responds through Ezekiel swearing by his own existence. As surely as I live,
Okay.
I take no pleasure in the death of the wicked. That's huge. He says he'd much rather that they turn from their ways and live. His desire isn't their destruction, even if that's where their path is leading. It's their turning, their life.
And then there's that really direct plea.
Oh, yeah. It's powerful. Turn. Turn from your evil ways. Why will you die, O house of Israel? You can almost hear the urgency, the passion.
It's not a cold command. It's like an appeal.
Exactly. Why will you die? It implies their death isn't like God's first choice for them. It's the consequence of the path they're on. And he's begging them, really, choose a different path. Choose life, even when they feel hopeless.
That idea of turning seems central. And it connects to this next big principle the chapter lays out about justice, right? This part really caught my attention.
Oh, yeah. This is where it gets, really challenging to maybe our usual ways of thinking. It sets out this principle. You're judged based on where you are right now, what you're doing now. Your past doesn't automatically save you or condemn you.
Seriously. So, like, decades of being a good person doesn't guarantee anything.
And according to this text, no. It gives the example of someone who was righteous, lived right, did good things, but then they turn, they start doing evil, relying on their past reputation maybe, doing detestable things.
What happens then?
The text says none of his righteous actions will be remembered. Flat out, that past goodness doesn't count anymore. They'll die for the evil they're doing now.
Wow. Tough. But there's a flip side, right? For the person who wasn't living right.
Exactly. And this is where the hope comes in. If a wicked person turns away from all their past sins and starts doing what's just and right, and it lists specific things like, returning stolen goods, paying back debts, following life-giving rules, stopping the evil,
Yeah.
then that person will surely live. And get this, none of the sins he has committed will be remembered against him.
A clean slate, basically, because they genuinely turned.
That's the idea. Their present actions demonstrate a real change, overwriting the past, in a sense.
And this must be God's answer to their earlier complaint, the one where they felt trapped and said God's way wasn't just.
Directly. The text even quotes them. The way of the Lord is not just. They feel it's unfair somehow.
And God's comeback
Is basically, hold on, is it my way that's unjust? Or is it your ways? He turns it right back on them, then reiterates, I will judge each of you according to his own ways.
So it's all about present reality, which is fair because it offers a chance to change, but also holds everyone accountable now.
Precisely. It's justice rooted in the present moment, constantly offering that choice. Turn towards life or continue on a path towards destruction.
Okay, so we've got the watchman's burden, God's plea to turn, this radical idea of present justice, and then boom, news arrives.
Yeah. The moment they've all been perhaps dreading or denying, a fugitive shows up from Jerusalem, and the message is blunt. The city has fallen.
The warning came true. And the text notes something specific about Ezekiel at this exact moment.
It does. It says God's hand had been on him the night before, and his mouth was open right when the messenger arrived that morning.
Ending his silence.
Seems like it. The time for warning before the catastrophe was over. Now that judgment had struck, maybe his role shifted. His words were validated by events.
But even with the city destroyed, the story shifts again to the people left behind, the survivors.
Right, those still kind of hanging around the ruins or out in the land, and their attitude is, well, it's something else.
What are they thinking?
They're looking around, maybe seeing fewer people, and they actually say, Abraham was just one guy, and he got the land. We're many. Surely the land is ours now.
Wait, seriously, after everything, they think they're entitled to it.
Incredible, isn't it? A kind of shocking self-delusion or denial. They think mere presence or ancestry gives them a right.
How does God respond to that claim?
He just rips it apart by pointing to how they're actually living. Right now, he lists their current actions: eating meat with blood, worshiping idols, murder, violence, adultery, all sorts of detestable things.
So their behavior completely undermines their claim.
Absolutely. God basically says, you think you deserve this land based on who you are. Look at what you're doing. It violates everything the covenant stood for.
And there are consequences for them too, even after the city's fall.
Oh, yes. The judgment isn't over, it's specific. Those in the ruins die by the sword, those in the fields get eaten by wild animals, those hiding in strongholds get hit by plague. No escape if they keep living like that.
Even the land itself suffers.
Yeah, the text says the land itself will become a desolate waste, its proud strength gone. The mountains desolate. It reflects the people's spiritual state.
And the point of all this continued destruction.
It's stated clearly. Then they will know that I am the Lord when I have made the land a desolate waste because of all the detestable things they have done. It's a harsh lesson in cause and effect, meant to bring recognition of God's reality and authority.
Okay, so disaster struck, the survivors are delusional, and still sinning, judgment continues. What's the vibe between the people and Ezekiel now, the prophet who warned them?
This part is fascinating and maybe a little uncomfortable because it feels so modern in a way.
How so?
Well, the text says people are talking about him, chatting about Ezekiel by the walls in their doorways. They even come and sit in front of him. They listen to his words.
So they are engaging with him after the fact.
On the surface, yes.
Yeah.
They show up, they listen. They might even say pious-sounding things, but there's that disconnect again. The text says their hearts are greedy for unjust gain.
Oof. So outwardly listening, inwardly, still the same old motivations.
Exactly. And how they actually see Ezekiel, it's damning.
What do they think of him?
To them, he's basically just an entertainer, someone who sings love songs with a beautiful voice and plays an instrument well.
Seriously, like background music.
Pretty much. They appreciate the performance, the delivery, maybe the artistry of his words, but they hear him, and they do not put them into practice. It doesn't change anything fundamental for them.
Wow. Hearing, but not doing. That really resonates. You see that all the time, don't you? people consuming information, even nodding along.
But it doesn't translate into action, into change. It
Right.
stays on the level of, yeah, entertainment or interesting ideas. It's a timeless human thing, I suppose.
So how does the chapter wrap up then, if they're not really getting it?
It ends with the promise about Ezekiel's message. Its validation doesn't depend on their immediate response.
It comes later.
Yes. The text says essentially, when all of this stuff comes true, and believe me, it will, then they'll know a prophet was actually among them.
So the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. The events themselves will prove he wasn't just singing pretty songs.
Exactly. The fulfillment of the word is the ultimate validation, whether they liked listening to it or not.
Okay, so zooming back out from Ezekiel 33, we've covered a lot. The heavy burden on the messenger, that watchman role.
Yeah, the life and death stakes of just speaking the truth you're given.
And God's heart in it all, that passionate plea, turn, turn, why will you die? Wanting life, not death.
Which ties into that core idea of present accountability. You're judged on who you are now, what you're doing now. Huge implications for both hope and responsibility.
Right, past righteousness doesn't save you if you turn bad. Past wickedness doesn't condemn you if you genuinely turn good.
Then the harsh reality of the fall, the survivor's bizarre entitlement.
Completely undercut by their terrible behavior,
Yeah.
leading to more judgment.
And finally, that really stark picture of people listening, maybe even enjoying the message, but treating the prophet like, well, like a performer. Hearing, not doing.
It definitely gives you a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It makes you ask, where do these dynamics play out today? That responsibility piece, the call to turn, justice based on actions.
And especially that gap between hearing something important, something challenging, and actually letting it change how you live. How often do we, consume messages, warnings, insights, calls to action, but they just sort of wash over us like nice music?
Yeah. And that final contrast between showing up, looking religious, claiming a certain status or heritage like those survivors did, and the actual reality of your heart, your greed, your actions. It forces you to ask, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's really going on inside? Am I just listening, or am I actually hearing in a way that leads to doing?
Makes you wonder.